Thomas. If you don't know me, I went to UCLA. I studied English literature. I graduated. Now I'm helping on staff with the club. And so I'm happy to share with you all tonight. So last week, Angel shared on consecration, which covered how the Lord created us, He redeemed us, and He loved us. And so we can't help but give ourselves to Him because we belong to Him. And so now we're going to be moving on from that topic. I'll share a little bit, and then we'll by 8:30 or so we'll break out, read some of the Bible, and be able to discuss in small groups. But so where do we go from consecration? So we belong to the Lord, and something actually very important we're going to touch tonight is in Romans 10:10. And so I'll read this verse, but just have your Bibles ready because I might call on some of you all to read some verses for us. But so Romans 10:10, it says, "For with the heart there is believing unto righteousness, and with the mouth there is confession unto salvation." So there are two matters here in this verse. The first is believing, which is unto righteousness. And this means that our believing in Jesus as Lord, and even that God raised him from the dead, that makes us righteous before God, that justifies us. So just by a show of hands, how many of you believe that Jesus was raised from the dead and that he's the Lord? Okay, I think just about everyone raised their hand. So yes, so we believe, and so we're righteous in God's eyes, and that never changes. Actually, we're saved, we're justified in the Lord's eyes, and He never changes that. But there's the second matter in this verse, which is confession, and it's not the confession of sins, which is important, but it's the confession of our faith, and even testifying that we have been saved. And in this verse, it says that confession is unto salvation. And the word unto is kind of a common word, but I looked it up in Greek, in the original language. It means with a view to or resulting in. So this means that our confession results in our salvation. And so spontaneously, when we believe, it issues in our confession, and we just testify this to others. But on the one hand, we're saved eternally, yet we can be brought fuller into this enjoyment of salvation, and we can be saved from many things in our daily life through this matter of confession. And this is what I'm going to be covering tonight. And so an acronym that you guys can take away is TAFE. And it's not the candy, the chewable candy, but it's TAFE, TAFE. So the first thing that confession saves us from is temptation. So T is for temptation. And so let's be honest, you all are in college. I passed through college. There's many temptations that are presented to us in our lives. And, we might have done certain things in the past before we were saved or before we had a relationship in the Lord that we know that we can't do anymore, or that we know that we can't participate in. And but sometimes others might pressure us, or others might ask us to do certain things, to say certain things, go to certain places, which we know that we can't as Christians. It just doesn't correspond to the life that we have within us. And so we might have an excuse once or twice, I have a headache, I'm not feeling well, I have a lot of homework, but we'll run out of excuses, and it'll force us to tell these people that, well, the reason why I can't do this or go there or say that is because, well, I believe in Jesus, and I'm a Christian, and I'm saved. So, and this is something that really saves us. This keeps us from these temptations. And, there's already enough temptation and trouble in our world that this is really a salvation to us. So by confessing, we're saved from temptation. So we'll be going to the next letter, A, in TAFE. So confessing saves us from accusation. And so I'm going to read Matthew 10:32 to 33. But maybe I could have Abraham get John 12:42 and 43. John 12:42, 43. So, okay, Matthew 10:32 and 33, this is the Lord speaking to his disciples. And he says, "Everyone who therefore will confess in me before men, I will also confess in him before my Father who is in the heavens. But whoever will deny me before men, I also will deny him before my Father who is in the heavens. And so this is a serious word where the Lord says, if we have difficulty confessing him, he will have difficulty confessing us before his Father. And so it's a very serious word. And it even shows that the Lord requires of us to confess of him, and it's very important to him. And so I'm going to pass it to Abraham, if you could read those verses in John 12 for us.
John 12, what verses, sorry?
42 and 43, no problem.
Okay. Yeah, at the same time, many even among the leaders believed in him, but because of the Pharisees, they would not openly acknowledge their faith for fear they would be put out of the synagogue. So they love human praise more than the praise of God.
Okay, thank you, Abraham. So here it says, just to give some background, the Jews at the time, they made it a law that if you confess Jesus to be the Messiah, you would get kicked out of the synagogue. You wouldn't be allowed to come. And so there were rulers in the synagogue who heard this word, and they were afraid of being kicked out because they loved the glory of man and they didn't want to lose their status. So even though they believed that Jesus was the Christ, was the Messiah, they did not confess that. And you can imagine what kind of unrest and uneasiness was in them that they couldn't speak what they believed. And so just to make it a little bit personal for us, imagine you're at home and someone comes in, someone comes to your house and they just start saying terrible things about your parents, that they're just awful people, just slandering them. I'm sure none of us would feel good about that. And we would want to stand up for our parents because we love them, because they gave us life. They gave, our mothers gave birth to us. And so we would surely say something. We wouldn't just sit there and sympathize and just listen to them. And it's the same with the Lord, that we can't help but confess that we believe in Christ, that we believe Jesus is Lord. And and if we don't do this, if we deny that we are Christians or even just don't speak up, there's a lack of peace in us, and we're uneasy, and there's unrest in us, and it's a terrible feeling. So by confessing, we're saved from accusation. Not only are we saved from temptation, but we're saved from accusation. But you might ask, well, why do we do that? Why do we not confess? And well, there's many reasons. We might be afraid of man, like these rulers of the synagogue. We might be afraid of how others might think of us. We might be shy. We might not like to argue with others. Well, I feel the same way. I'm also a shy person. I don't like to argue. I'm very introverted naturally, but the Lord, as I said, requires of us to confess Him, and even He says to us in Isaiah 51, "Who are you that you are afraid of man who dies?" And this verse touched me very much. Why are we afraid of man, yet we're not afraid of the Lord? The Lord requires this of us, yet somehow we uphold what man thinks of us rather than what the Lord thinks of us. And so, can I get someone? Let's see, Caitlin, would you be able to read Romans 1:15 through 16? And I have Proverbs 29:25 here as you're getting that up. It says, "The fear of man brings a snare." So that means the fear of man is an obstacle to us. But whoever trusts in and puts his confidence in the Lord will be exalted and safe. And so if we forget about our fear of others, and if we trust in the Lord, He will exalt us and we will be safe in Him. And then, Caitlin, would you be able to read those verses in Romans 1:15 to 16?
Yeah, Romans 1:15 through 16. That is why I am so eager to preach the gospel also to you who are in Rome. For I am not ashamed of the gospel, because it is the power of God that brings salvation to everyone who believes, first to the Jews, then to the Gentiles.
Outstanding. Thank you. So Paul said it. He said, "I am not ashamed of the gospel." And so the world may think that believing in Jesus is a shameful thing, but we see that the gospel is nothing to be ashamed of, for it is the power of God. And even we can't help but proclaim this salvation that we've received. And so I really love that verse. I am not ashamed of the gospel. How about whether you're on mute or whether you're unmuted? Let's all say that together. I'm not ashamed of the gospel. Ready, go. I am
I
not
am not ashamed of the gospel.
Hallelujah. Okay, so we're saved from temptation, we're saved from accusation. And so the next thing that confession does, confessing our faith, it opens up the door for others to be saved, and also for us to have fellowship with other believers. So the F here is fellowship. And so I just like to share a couple stories that I have. We're in a pandemic right now. We have very little involvement, very little interactions with people in our daily life. But there's some essentials that we're doing that we have to do, like go to the grocery store, or go to the post office or whatever. And so, being in the pandemic and not being able to speak about the Lord has kind of made me think, well, I should be very intentional with whatever interactions I have. And I felt that from the Lord. And so there was a time where I was shipping something through UPS, and I was there just packing everything up, and I was just, the guy behind the counter was friendly, and the Lord touched me. He said, you should speak to him. You should ask him. You should ask him if he knows me. And so I don't know. I was kind of nervous, but I said, hey, do you know Jesus? And he said, yeah, I do. And when he said that, I was just, excited. Wow, you're my brother, and we exchanged a few words, but it was awesome. And so now whenever I go back to UPS, I get to see my brother DJ, and we can just fellowship about the Lord and just encourage one another to go on in the Lord. And also in my building, we have a maintenance guy who comes in, and he was actually here today fixing a leak. And we were in the elevator one day, and he turned to me and he said, are you a Christian? And I said, yes. And he said, that's really good. And so ever since then, we've been able to fellowship about the Lord, about the Bible, about our experience. And it's been so awesome. But it just came through our confession. Even my maintenance guy, he confessed to me that he was a Christian. But now we can have fellowship, and it's enjoyable. And even oftentimes our confession, it opens the door for people to come to us. They know that we're a Christian. And so who are they going to come to when they have questions related to God? They'll come to us. And so we'll get into this a little bit further, a little bit later on. But the next thing, so the E, so the last letter, it's enjoyment. So we have temptation. It saves us from temptation, accusation. It causes us to have fellowship with others, and it gives us enjoyment. So can I have someone look up 1 Corinthians 9:23? How about Cal? Look up 1 Corinthians 9:23. Before you read that, I have Proverbs 11:25, which says, he who waters is watered himself also. And so what this means is when we speak to others, it just gives us joy. It's mysterious, it's unexplainable, but when we speak to others about Christ, we're just filled with joy, and it's unexplainable. And so, Cal, do you have that verse, 1 Corinthians 9:23?
Yeah. And I do all things for the sake of the gospel, that I may become a fellow partaker of it.
Amen. So this verse, Paul explains his experience in preaching the gospel, that as he preaches the gospel, not only do those who hear partake of it, but we also partake of the gospel when we share it with others. And so I experienced this with the guy at UPS. I enjoyed that as I shared, as I asked him, there was a joy there, and I partook of that as well. And even I was at Target, where I go grocery shopping, and the lady at the register, we were just talking, having conversation, and I told her, she was telling me how she has to work on the weekends because she doesn't have a life during the week. That's what she said. And I told her, well, the Lord is our real rest. I enjoyed that Matthew 11, that Christ is our rest. And she just said amen to that. She said that she experienced the Lord as her rest, even because she had just had a very terrible suffering, an injury. But as I shared that with her, she enjoyed it, but I also enjoyed it. It gave me joy just to share that with her. So this is what confessing our faith does. Saves us from accusation, It saves us from temptation. It causes us to have fellowship with others. It opens that door, and then it gives us enjoyment. So remember Taffy. And so I'll be wrapping up in a little bit, but you might be asking yourselves, well, am I really qualified to speak for the Lord? Or, well, I don't really know what to say. And so, well, I don't believe that there has ever been a baby who's been born and then speaks right out of the womb, right? And I think we're all relatively young in the Lord. And so we're just learning to speak. Just as a baby is born and it learns to speak, we're also learning to speak. But we have to speak, and we have to learn and develop our speaking, because imagine if there's a baby and they're 1, 2, or 3 years old and they haven't started speaking. Well, the mother would think that there could be something wrong. And even there's a possibility that this child would never speak, which is a sad thing. And this is sad to the Lord, because he doesn't want us to be silent Christians. But if we don't learn to speak when we're young, there's a chance where we might be silent for most of our Christian life. So I encourage you all, we should learn, we should go, we should learn to speak to people, learn to confess our faith to people. And just a story in the Bible is the woman at the well, where the Lord meets this woman, right, at this well, and she has a sinful living, but he leads her to believe into him. He leads her to touch him, and she gets saved. And after that, immediately after that, she goes back to her village, and she just shares this, that she's found the Christ, and people get saved because of that. She just believed in the Lord. She didn't have a living to back up what she was speaking, but just because she went and spoke, the Lord was able to save others. And so, to kind of illustrate this a little bit more, I'm going to share a video of a testimony from a brother named Dick Taylor. And he actually gave this testimony when I was a freshman at UCLA, at one of Christian students' gatherings. And so just to give some background, this brother's spoken all over the world, Australia, Africa, many different places, but he actually lives across the street from UCLA, so just down the street from me. I'm an amazing brother, but he didn't always know how to speak for the Lord. And so I'm gonna share this video for us, and I hope you all enjoy this.
When I first got saved, and my coach, I was a captain of the football team, and the first game, and the coach, I was down on my one knee, and all the guys are approaching, the coaches there just saying, go out there and beat the tar out of them, and blah, blah, blah. And then he looks at me stutteringly, and he says, Dick, would you lead the team in a word of prayer? When he said prayer, I nearly fainted. I was a new Christian. He's asking me to pray out loud in front of all my friends, and I did not know what to do. I didn't even know about look away. So I just said, Dear Lord, help us to play a good game. I didn't know what my next sentence. And Lord, keep us from any injuries. And something else like that. And I didn't know how to end the prayer. And I said, Lord, you got to save the whole team the way you saved me. Wow, when I said that, I enjoyed resurrection. I could have played 50 games. I was energized because I touched the resurrection life. Eventually, we prayed 3 times every game, and we won every game that year. And at the end of the season, my entire team, the whole team and the coaches all came to a gospel meeting. So a good number of them got saved. But I didn't know that much about the truth, but I was tasting something of resurrection. And that joy of experiencing him.
Okay, so I hope you like that. And just to highlight a few things that he said, he was very newly saved. He didn't know what to say or what to pray. It shocked him, it surprised him. He was probably afraid, but he just spoke. And what happened is that many on his team actually came to believe in the Lord. And it was all because he told someone on his team or told his coach that he was a Christian. And the Lord just gave him that opportunity to speak to them. And so I'm going to pass it now to Chase, and Chase is going to share a short testimony as well.
Hey guys, how's it going? So one experience that I've had with sharing my faith was during my sophomore year here at UCLA, and I was leading a Bible study. It was a weekly thing that I was leading up at the dorms with a fellow believer. And so at the very beginning of the year, we went around to every dorm room in the Hedrick building, and we knocked on all the dorms. We had flyers. We were trying to have some conversations, get to know the students, and see if anybody would be interested in coming out to, learn more about the Lord and share their faith with one another. And what was interesting was, we were being faithful to go out, like Miles is saying, share our faith and be shameless in that regard. And we did get some interest. We got some guys. But in the following weeks, as things progressed with my rowing team, I started having guys come up to me from my team who I had, some of them only known for a couple of weeks, and they'd say, Chase, are you a believer? Like, Chase, where do you go to church? And they'd start asking me these different questions. And then before I knew it, the Bible study, had a couple guys from that Hedrick group that we went and knocked on their doors, but it predominantly became a rowing Bible study. We had probably 10 guys in there, and 7 of them were from my team. And we'd also carpool to church on Sundays, and it became this really cool ordeal. And I guess the lesson learned from that, is there's definitely value in being bold and going out and sharing your faith directly, but there's also a lot of value in our daily living and considering, what witness that we're putting on when we don't necessarily think that anybody else is watching, because I'm sure you've heard the saying before that you're the only Bible that a lot of people will ever read. And
Amen.
So it's really important that, we're conscious about walking in the Spirit at all times and exhibiting Christ. And so that when people do come up and ask you, are you a Christian? Where do you go to church? It's not just a simple yes or no question, but if we're walking in the Spirit, we can flow that same life that's in us into them as well and create something really beautiful.
Awesome. Thank you, Chase. So what he said is so good that, what he said was so good that, there is the value in going out to speak to people, to be bold in our faith, but do not despise even the small instances where you just tell people that, yes, I am a Christian, or yes, I do go to church. And the Lord can really use this. And even if you're not on a sport team, I'm not on a sport team. So just these last 2 testimonies, they happen to be sport teams, but we all have these opportunities to confess our faith, no matter how small they are. And you might be asking, well, I'm not meeting so many people, again, we're in a pandemic. Well, there's many different ways to confess our faith. And it's not always with our mouth. And so, like I mentioned earlier, we can be intentional with these interactions we do have with people in person, but we can also sometimes we wear a t-shirt that says a Bible verse, or that we're a Christian, or we read our Bible, and people notice those things, and it screams Christian, and that can open up an opportunity. Even Travis and I were working out one time, and I had a shirt that said Christian students on it. Some guy came up to us, and then he ended up joining a Bible study. And so we never know. And finally, I think the last practical thing is, we're all on social media. We can all post something, in our bio, on our story, or in our post about the Lord. And I encourage you all to do so. And even when I was in college, I was baptized, and I didn't even post the video. Someone else posted this video on Facebook of me getting baptized. And someone in my theater club, who I never thought would have seen it, who actually was an atheist, he was like, hey, Miles, I saw that video of you getting baptized. And I was like, I was surprised. But it actually created an opportunity for me to speak to a few of those friends in my theater club about the Lord. And so like I've said before, we're all learning, we're all developing our speaking for the Lord, but it saves us from accusation. It saves us from temptation. opens the door for fellowship, for others to be saved, and it gives us joy. And so may we all learn this and just go on and just take the opportunities that that the Lord's given before.